The Advisory Council on Dependents Education goes out to take the pulse of various areas in the DOD system when they're not meeting in Washington. But who's on the council and what does it do?
It's made up of people from the United States who are practitioners in education, superintendents, principals, and educational experts, as well as family members from the DOD school system and some of our administrators. Looking at the DOD schools and talking with parents and looking at the programs to see if we are excelling in education as we want to be.
With a continuing emphasis on better education, the big question to be answered is, how are DOD schools doing meeting the challenge of education?
We are finding that our practices in our schools are not dissimilar to those practices in the United States. We are finding that our students are performing well and that our teachers are engaged in best practices of teaching methodology. Our council members advise us on places where they think that we might have problems, communications, and things of that nature.
And what concerns do parents have about the school system that serves their children?
Probably the biggest issue for parents right now is to assure that during this period of drawdown and transition that we will continue to have the quality of offerings and the quality of education and maintain that. And in fact, we are experiencing that is being maintained and improved. In fact, we are enhancing it.
In Wiesbaden, Germany, I'm Sergeant Bill Powell, AFN News.
Over the next few nights, Ms. Woods will discuss the effects drawdown will have on DOD's schools as well as child care. DODS has selected 12 sites for a new Sure Start child development program, similar to Head Start in the U.S. schools. The instruction is targeted at 3 to 5-year-olds with identified learning disabilities or those who come from low-income or single-parent families. DODS already has a pilot project underway in Lakenheath and would add Alkenbury Upwood in the United Kingdom. Also targeted are Soesterberg Air Base, the Netherlands, and Iceland. In Germany, Bamberg, Mannheim, Kalb, Würzburg, and 2 sites each in Baumholder and Kaiserslautern. The spokesman says the classes will begin in late February or early March and will be advertised locally. A new fiscal year brings more personnel cuts to the Army. Sergeant Ed Josie reports.
Pentagon officials plan to decide which officers must hang up their uniforms later this year, but there's still time for officers to leave voluntarily. The Army's offering the voluntary separation incentive and the special separation benefit to officers who risk losing their jobs. Those soldiers include company and field grade officers promoted between these dates. If they don't leave voluntarily, the Army could force them to leave through an involuntary reduction in force or RIF. Personnel expert Major Ralph Allison says officers promoted between these dates need to find out what their chances are of getting RIF'd.
Talk to as many people as you can. Professional development officer at PERSCOM, people that have been in personnel management positions at DA level, and that can give them a good file evaluation. It is a very hard call for those guys in the RIF zone.
Captains passed over for promotion also face involuntary separations. Allison says if they were passed over once, it's unlikely they'll ever get promoted.
For guys that are one-time non-select, 5%. You're only talking 5% that will possibly get selected the next time around. So 95% of those guys are going to go.
Allison's advice? Volunteer to leave now, because officers who volunteer to leave can get up to $20,000 more than those forced out. The Army hopes to get 700 majors to leave voluntarily and 1,400 captains. Ed Josie, The Pentagon.
Castles is the subject of our next report in Gary Bartel's series on the German state of Thuringia's classic road.
Just south of Weimar is the Ettersburg Castle. Actually, it's a complex of 2 palaces set in a huge park. The castle, like so many in the former German Democratic Republic, has been left to decay for the past half-century. But in the early part of the 19th century, it was a cultural mecca. The Grand Duchess of Saxony-Weimar and her son invited the great composers and writers of the age to work and perform at the castle, including the writers Wolfgang Goethe and Friedrich Schiller, and the composers Franz Liszt and Sebastian Bach. Manfred Kahler of the Weimar Classic Foundation says the castle has had a varied history since then.
dass nach 1918 im Zusammenhang
After 1918, following the abolition of the monarchy, the castle became the property of the state. It was then used as a reform school. After 1945, it was a school to train judges. Later, senior citizens were put here, in buildings which were in no way suitable for old people, even though the surroundings are beautiful. In recent years, the castle was unused and decay set in. Restoration work is now underway at Ettersburg Castle, and Kahler says it eventually will be a multi-purpose conference center, hotel, and museum. 3 additional classic road castles are a short distance east at Dornberg.
There are over 200 castles in Thuringia in various states of repair or disrepair. Here in Domburg, there are 3 castles from 3 different architectural periods, high on the banks overlooking the Saale River and the wonderful panorama from the castles.
2 of the Dornberg castles are fully renovated with museums and cafes. The Baroque castle in the middle and the Rococo period castle to its left. From the hilltop, one has a view of the Saale River Valley. It was a view Goethe often enjoyed, for this was another of the many places he sought inspiration for his writing. In Dornberg, Gary Bautel, AFN News.
Tomorrow, the final feature of our Classic Road series on a 100-year-old one-man brewery.